If John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
Just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know.
Okay, you're aware he was beaten up by Brian and Colin Albert. I mean, we're all in on the same joke, right? My tail light was cracked and John was pulverized.
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
Echoes slowly cry in the cold hard light. Guitar soars through the stormy skies. A melody that pierces the eyes. Love's a memory, a distant dream. In this world it seems. Fingers glide in the fading light. A final note, a last good night. Lost in the shadows, lost in time. Dreams are all we find. Oh, dreams whisper, oh, dreams sigh. In the darkness they take flight. Heartbreak echoes, a lonely cry in the cold hard light. In the shadows where whispers dwell,
1.3.
it's like guitar sings of love's farewell.
10-4, I just wanted to know if
Echoes of the heart once bold, now lost in the night's cold fold.
Yeah, I'll be 23 back on
Secrets
the property
hidden
case. I'll be 76
deep within,
of those claims thrown out.
tales of love that couldn't win. Promises made in moonlight's glow, now broken like a shattered show. Sorrow in the guitar's cry, resilience in the sky. Through the night we'll find our way, carrying secrets, holding on today. Memories of laughter and tears. In the silence they appear, whispers of a time so true, when love was all we knew. Lost in the echoes of the past, wishing for what we had. In the dark we search for light, holding on to what we fight. Through the pain, through the night, we find strength in the fight. Sorrow in the guitar's cry, resilience in the sky. Through the night we'll find our way, carrying secrets, holding on today. Holding on to deep.
521. Give me a card for a parking problem. on your 23. We're all gonna.
Okay, hey everybody, we got some breaking news today that does force me to yet again cover this case. And I mentioned the other night that I won't cover the case anymore unless there's something new that comes out. And so there is something new and big that's coming out. Now, this has been reported by the Boston Globe, by ABC News, and by Christina Rex Christina Rex is of NBC, right? Let me just start with going with Copilot, which is Edge browsers or Microsoft's version of ChatGPT. Because you can ask it some questions and sometimes it'll give you some interesting answers. So I asked it, can you tell me all you know about the breaking story about the federal grand juror in the Karen Reed case that has been charged with leaking? And by the way, Kate's going to be on as soon as she can. She's had been hurrying home from the grocery store to make dinner for her family, but she'll be on. So hopefully we'll be on till about 9. Hi, Funny Bunny. All right. So having seen the articles, I asked Copilot the question, and this is the answer. It said, "Absolutely, Kevin, and it's a bombshell development in a case that's already been packed with twists." The breaking news: Jessica Leslie, a 34-year-old woman from Dracut, Massachusetts, which is my neck of the woods. It's on the other side of Lowell, has agreed to plead guilty to criminal contempt for leaking secret grand jury information from the Karen Reed investigation. Federal prosecutors say she disclosed the names of witnesses, the substance of their testimony, and other sealed evidence, all while bound by strict confidentiality rules. So we don't know who she leaked to, right? Now, we know that going back to, and there's more I'm going to read more on this, but going back to the summer of 2022 rather, Turtle Boy was talking about this stuff. He clearly had a source, and the state prosecutor, Morrissey's office, believed that the leaker was the feds themselves. So we'll see. Maybe they had a hand in this. Maybe they didn't. Now, what became, so I'll have more information on it as we go through it. But so this may be something that exonerates the feds or not. And it certainly doesn't, because there's more other information that we've talked about many times in the channel. We'll go back into it too. But at least on this one charge of leaking, maybe that didn't have anything to do with the feds themselves at the time. We'll see. Or are they just trying to cover their asses here? So the legal fallout from Leslie's plea deal includes 1 day of incarceration already deemed served. So they've worked out a plea deal, which is not yet to be accepted by the judge. And that plea deal involves 1 day of incarceration on the part of Leslie, which they've said has already been served. Did she actually go to prison for a day? I don't think so. They probably just deemed her sitting in the office talking to them all day. That was probably enough. I don't know. 24 months of supervised release. No fine imposed. A formal plea hearing hasn't been scheduled yet. So they really haven't punished her with anything. So we'll see if that remains to be seen a problem. Is she helping them hide wrongdoing on the part of her predecessor, Josh Levy? We'll see. Or so is the current U.S. Attorney's Office led by Leah Foley? Are they on the team? Are they on Team Good Guys? Are they doing the right thing? Are they trying to do the right thing? We don't know that actually yet. We don't really know that. There's encouraging signs because they were the ones that ended the federal probe here. Josh Levy had kept it open for a year even after they stopped looking because he wanted to hide himself from any questions. Is Leah Foley, the current U.S. attorney, trying to get to the truth, or is she continuing to try to hide it? There is evidence both ways. So the people that were working, basically Josh Levy's captains on this, they're still not only in the U.S. Attorney's Office, they're in the same positions in the government that they were before. So there's a reason to believe that she's still protecting them. So we'll see. Hopefully she's someone. One thing this case has shown is that integrity is rare. It shouldn't be, but integrity when it comes to government officials, lawyers, podcasters, YouTubers, it's extremely rare. And it's very rare when it comes to the U.S., the feds. It just is. These are generally very ambitious people up there, and that's their primary concern is getting ahead. So will they do something that embarrasses themselves or hurts themselves in some way? Doesn't seem to be likely, at least not in the Boston office. But maybe Leah Foley will prove to be the exception to the rule. All right. How was it discovered? Authorities haven't publicly revealed how they uncovered the leak, but sources say they were monitoring social media and other communications due to the intense public interest in this case. Well, okay. Maybe. But there's reasons to be skeptical about that, too, because this leaking went on in 2023, in the early summer of 2023. So that's 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Now, maybe, of course, Leah Foley's only taken over this past January, end of January. So maybe that's why she's been able to uncover this now. We'll see. Context. The Karen Reed case. Karen Reed was acquitted last month of murder, manslaughter, and leaving the scene of an accident in the 2022 death of John O'Keefe. She was convicted only of operating under the influence. This is, again, ChatGPT. This leak adds yet another layer to a case already under federal scrutiny, and it raises serious questions about how information was flowing behind the scenes. So I asked it one more question. I said, speculate on ways the U.S. Attorney's Office found out about this. So this is Copilot, which is a version of ChatGPT, again, on Microsoft, and it comes with your Edge browser. So this is the answer. There's room for educated guesswork here, Kevin. And given your investigative chops, well, thank you, ChatGPT, you probably have a few hunches of your own. Federal prosecutors are notoriously tight-lipped when it comes to leak probes. But here are some plausible mechanisms that they may have used to uncover the grand jury breach. Digital forensics and communications monitoring. They could have tracked metadata or flagged communications using targeted keywords or platforms like Telegram, Discord, Facebook, or encrypted texting apps. Interesting how they mention encrypted texting apps, because that's what Karen and that's what Karen's lawyers use. That's what Alan Jackson used with ARCA, which came out during a hearing this past April. But authorities don't really want to seem to know that stuff, do they? All right. If the leak was shared electronically, they may have used IP traces or subpoenaed phone and email records, tools the FBI employs routinely in leak cases. Witness alerts and testimonies. Someone within the grand jury room or legal circle might have reported suspicious behavior, like a juror asking unusual questions or referencing knowledge not covered in open court. Prosecutors often quietly question witnesses who testified before the grand jury to see if anyone contacted them improperly or mentioned sealed details. So that's an interesting possibility here. Again, if that was the case, it shouldn't take 2 years for them to find out, but Josh Levy was not interested in the truth. So it took till we had a new U.S. attorney. Hold on one second. Let's see. This won't open here. All right. It says there may have been a digital footprint, posts, comments, or even anonymous leaks traced to Leslie's account or devices. It's likely they monitored forums and creator feeds discussing the Karen Reed case. Well, back then, There was only one forum, and it was the Facebook group. That was the Free Karen Read Facebook group. To my knowledge, there were no on the other side groups like that, and there never were any leaks on the other side. Federal agents could have used AI-based surveillance tools designed to identify anomalies in online behavior tied to sensitive cases. Well, that AI stuff wasn't available 2 years ago, but I guess they could be using it still now, retrospectively. In some high-profile cases, in some high-profile leaks, investigators have used sting techniques, feeding certain info to suspect leakers to see if it surfaced elsewhere. Well, given the way that the feds were cooperating so inappropriately with Karen's team, no, that's not something that was going on. All right. All right, way to drop the computer. Let me put up one of the articles on the screen for you. All right, let's see. This is from the U.S. Attorney's Office. All right. This is from U.S. Attorney's Office. Breaking: woman from Dracut, Mass. charged with allegedly disclosing information presented to a federal grand jury to unauthorized individuals. So that was either to Turtle Boy or to Karen's team. It doesn't say here, but it is confirmed elsewhere. ABC News confirmed that this was related to the Karen Read case. All right. Let's pull up another one. Christina Rex also broke this story. She might have been the first to break it. Let's see. Let's see. Let's just find Christina Rex. Let's do it that way. Wonder if Turtle Boy's watching this, sweating this out a little bit, because there could be charges here. If he was knowingly reporting stuff, which he was, that was coming from a federal grand jury, looks like Bradle's going to get a little more work to do. And that little dude, the little creepy dude, Betterow. So let's see. This is where she got here. This is from Christina Rex. Jessica Leslie was charged. This is interesting too. So, all right. So she was charged on Friday, July 11th, with one count of criminal contempt. Criminal contempt. The defendant has agreed to plead guilty and will make an initial appearance in federal court in Boston at a later date. Plea hearing has not yet been set. According to the charging document, on various dates between August 11th, 2022. Now, that's an interesting date. Is that when the federal grand jury, which runs 18 months, is that when it began? Well, August 11th is when Karen and her team, very unusually, somehow got a meeting with then first U.S. Attorney Josh Levy. Now, when I talked to Rachel Rollins months ago, she said she was unaware. And she's texted me recently about a need to talk, but she has not taken my calls. So I don't know if she will. Maybe she'll want to retract that statement. We'll see. Did Rachel Rollins actually tell me the truth about that? Or did Rachel Rollins know about this meeting? Did she have a hand in setting up this meeting? But somehow, Karen and her shady team, they've done nothing but shady things here. This is the huge part of the story, and you have to understand it. They managed to get a meeting with the very powerful first U.S. attorney, who was Josh Levy. He eventually became U.S. attorney. But first U.S. attorney is kind of like chief of staff. It's a very powerful position. And I've seen the text messages or the signal messages and the text messages from Karen to Natalie because Karen was extremely excited, and she was basically saying, "You don't understand how powerful this person is at that level. They don't miss," she said, and so this is a done deal. But somehow Karen and her lawyers, all of them, got that meeting, and they walked into that office. Did Josh? And that was the day they walked in. So this is months after John's death. This is 1 month after Alan Jackson got on the case, joined the team. Was he the one that got the meeting, or was it Yannetti who got the meeting? My guess would be Yannetti, but I don't know. It is kind of a coincidence that it happened just a month after Alan Jackson joined the team. But so were they able to? Did Josh Levy launch a grand jury literally that day? Just based on a defense team coming in with the unusual position of saying their client didn't do it? Weird, right? Why do they put here the dates between August 11th? Certainly the federal grand jury hadn't been seated at that time. I don't think they actually started hearing testimony until the spring of 2023. Takes time. Just you got to send out jury notices, right? So, not sure what this means, but all right. So the defendant disclosed sealed information to unauthorized individuals, including the names of various witnesses appearing before a federal grand jury, the substance of witnesses' testimony, and other evidence presented to the grand jury in violation of the federal rules and court order. You cannot just ignore this. This is serious stuff. This is a case that never stops. It's entirely corrupt. From everything we've learned about the U.S. attorney at the time, Josh Levy, from everything we'll see if Rachel Rollins is involved, from the actions of the U.S. attorney's office in violating sequestration order, in communicating during the first trial what the state's experts were testifying, reporting that to Dr. Wolf of ARCA during the first trial, violating the law, something they knew, but they were doing it anyways. That's the arrogance that we're talking about here. There's been bogus stuff going on in this case all along. And to think that that didn't affect the outcome of the trial is naive, is simplistic. Of course it did. All right, let's pull up another news article on this topic. Hold on 1 second. I'm trying to StreamYard has changed the way they do things, so I'm still not fully up to speed on the format. All right, I think I got it here. All right, so here's this is CBS News. Massachusetts woman will plead guilty. She's going to have a criminal record to leaking sealed federal grand jury information. So again, Jessica Leslie. Who was she leaking to? Did she reach out to Karen's team? Did she reach out to Turtle Boy? If I had to make a guess, I would say Turtle Boy. Because everybody wants that to be plugged into that little bit of fame, right? Just like the jurors in this trial, right? Some of them. All right. And in the first trial, too. What do they do when the trial's over? They get in touch with Turtle Boy. U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts, Leah Foley, and Ted Dock, special agent in charge of FBI Boston, announced charges Tuesday against Leslie, who lives in Dracut. While she was a member of a federal grand jury, Leslie allegedly shared sealed information that included the names of various witnesses, the substance of their testimony, and other evidence. Prosecutors did not specify what case the grand jury called for, but in other areas they confirmed it's the Karen Reed case. Details were not disclosed regarding who Leslie leaked the information to. The information was allegedly leaked between August 11th of 2022 and March 4th of 2024. Leslie was charged on Friday. She was facing prison time, supervised release, and a fine of $250,000 if convicted. But she got the plea instead. Instead, the U.S. attorney said Leslie agreed to plead guilty and will make an appearance in federal court on a later date. But is this just a way to try to bury this? You know, so one possible way, and I have no information that this is the case. We know that D.A. Morrissey got Turtle Boy's phone and also got Karen's phone. Was there anything left on those phones? So I'm talking about the second time they got Karen's phone. This would have been in January of 2024 rather. So could the Norfolk County prosecution, going over either Turtle Boy's phone or Karen's phone, have found these communications, and then they would have been required to turn them over to the federal government because it was a federal grand jury. And the federal government could not have ignored it. So that's one possibility. Again, I don't trust the feds here. I don't trust Leah Foley either until I see otherwise. The feds tend to be dirty, and the fact that the people that worked directly under Dutch Levy and then were communicating with the ARCA guys are still in their positions. No, I don't at this point. Leah Foley gets no trust from me. She has to earn that. As far as I'm concerned, she's just another dirty fed from that office. And that office has a long history of being dirty. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I really do. And I very much, it's very encouraging this, and it's also encouraging the fact that she stopped the investigation in February and came forward and reached out to the local police, to the DA's office, and to the state police and told them that. But is she just trying to cover her own ass? Does she? How far will she go? Does she really want to get justice here? Because what was going on was dirty. If you have a U.S. attorney's office violating sequestration order, you have to get to the bottom of it. And if you don't get to the bottom of it, you're just as dirty as they are. So only time will tell. Now, I want to give her the benefit of the doubt, but until I see it, no one should given the gravity of what goes on, the dirty stuff that goes on in the Boston U.S. Attorney's Office, nobody should give them the federal doubt. Her husband should not give her the benefit of the doubt. She needs to prove it, and that's the only way. She needs to come clean with all this stuff. We need to see that they're doing an actual investigation. Now, I have information that I reported several weeks ago that the FBI is very unhappy with how the U.S. Attorney's Office conducted themselves here. Very unhappy. And they feel that the U.S. Attorney's Office got them into a mess. So the U.S. Attorney's Office is nowhere near out of the woods. Nobody should give them the benefit of the doubt at this point. All right, and I had let's see, I got the FBI one that was sent to me on the phone. Let me check that one out for you guys. All right, this is from ABC News. Show you on the camera a little bit just so you don't think I'm making it up. Federal prosecutors did not say, I only got part, there's a longer article, but I only got part of it here. Federal prosecutors did not say how they learned Leslie had disclosed secret grand jury information, but sources said authorities have been monitoring social media accounts and other communications during a case that received a widespread attention. There was someone else that I can't remember where I got it. Somebody else had sent me a message that confirmed that this involved the Karen Reed case, but can't find it. Let me see if I can find it. I got so many messages that, I think I know where I got it. Never mind. Let me, actually somebody email me. Let me see where I put this, but I know now. I know it was in one of these emails. Okay. I think that's just so there's also, we'll see if it's in this one. This is from Shelley Murphy from the Globe is also covering this. Okay, so this is from Shelley Murphy, who's been covering the Karen Reed case from the Boston Globe, a Drake woman who sat in the federal grand jury. So blah, 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 same thing. A plea agreement signed by Leslie Tuesday says the government and defense have agreed to recommend that she be sentenced to 1 day deemed served, meaning she will not spend any time in prison if the judge adopts the recommendation. A hearing date has not been set. So I can't imagine any reason why the feds would make a deal with someone that lets them off the hook unless they're cooperating to give up somebody else. So she is almost certainly giving up who she leaked the information to. So if it's Turtle Boy or if it's Alan Jackson or David Yannetti or Karen Reed, whoever, if you got that information, she's already given this to the feds. So heads up. I'm sure you already know. Officials did not disclose that Leslie was sitting on the grand jury hearing evidence about the state process. All right, let me go a paragraph off. So Leslie is accused of disclosing sealed information about the secret grand jury proceedings. So yeah, and it mentions the date. So this is clearly the Karen Reed stuff. Officials did not disclose that Leslie was sitting on the grand jury hearing evidence about the state prosecution of Reed. However, 2 people familiar with the allegations confirmed that she was accused of leaking information related to the Reed's case. So this is in Shelley Murphy in the Boston Globe, confirming, 2 people confirming to her that these leaks involve the Karen Reed case. And the rest just sums up the Karen Reed case. All right. Oh, Kate is actually here. I think she can let herself in, but I let her in anyways. Hi, Kate. Kate, can you hear me? She'll pop in when she's ready. She's kind of half ready. So this is very important stuff. We don't know exactly what it involves yet because it's just the beginning of what's going on.
I think that it's ironic, don't you, though?
Oh, you are here now. Okay, good.
Yeah, sorry, my mic wasn't. I logged in on my account, so hold on just a second. Sorry.
So you don't have StreamYard anymore, right, Kate?
I don't pay for the subscription anymore. I don't really like to use it. I will. I mean, it's definitely the easiest for panel discussions, but like, I don't know. It's very expensive for what you get, but
right, it is. It has one new cool feature I'm going to use here for the first time. You can turn up or down people's mics. So I'm going to turn your mic up a little bit.
Oh, great. Sorry. Yeah, I'm like barely plugged in. This was kind of like, I mean, I kind of figured at some point the pendulum was going to swing back on this, just because like where it was left for the federal government is not a great place to be for Foley in her office. And obviously she recognized that pretty quickly, and she didn't just close the investigation. She made sure that people knew that it was closed, which was about as strong an action as she could take. At least for that, like, and pretty unusual. So,
Right, because DOJ rules kind of prohibited her from, in theory, holding a press conference and making an announcement about it. So
correct. I mean, they really aren't even supposed to acknowledge that this investigation exists, which is, part of the reason why now there's retribution for someone that they found violating that, right? Stepping out of line with that. And I think that it's interesting. I think that we can all probably surmise who she's the leaker, who the leaky was here. I mean, peak level delusion from Free Karen Reed right now. They're like, yeah, it's the McAlbert. It's like, no, a grand juror does not need to leak testimony back to the people who testified.
Well, not only that, the only people that were ever leaking anything about what was going on was the Free Karen Reed side. There was, the witnesses have never talked at all. They've been silent. So, it was, none of us have been reporting that. We didn't know any of that. The only people reporting when, for instance, when witnesses were going to testify was Turtle Boy.
Right. And I mean, I think that goes, and of course, Karen Reed knew, so whether it was directly to him and they got it from his cell phones, which the timing is interesting because, they recently just kind of resolved a lot of those taint team issues. And as of his last hearing had given up passwords yet again, so that the police could go through the remaining devices.
Right.
Whether or not that's connected, we'll see. I mean, I think, from what these sources are saying, the phrasing of social media accounts and other communications kind of paints a pretty vivid picture there, but we'll see. What I will say too, though, is that this is a very precarious situation in that, so if I leak grand jury witnesses to you, they're federal witnesses, which means that technically they're under the protection of the federal government as well as the state in this case, right? I leak those names to you and you start to harass them based on that information that I gave you. What's going on there? I think it's very interesting how quickly this woman pled before she was even arraigned. So they obviously had her dead to rights for her to plead that quickly, and the leniency in which she was given, right? And I know that the sentencing guidelines, probably worked in her favor, but we're talking, just a slap on the wrist and the guilty. So that could be problematic for other people as well. And I would just say that, if that was connected to, perhaps somebody intimidating these people, and we know that happened in the case of Turtle Boy, right? Because he was already indicted on the state level, and the Massachusetts statute is almost identical to the federal statute. Did you know that, Kevin?
No, and it's written similarly, all right? Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty damn close. So I think that's interesting. I think it's all very interesting right now.
So I just asked a quick question to ChatGPT. I said, if a federal grand juror leaks grand jury testimony to me and I make it public, have I broken the law? And it says the short answer is you likely have not broken the law, but the grand juror absolutely has. So federal grand jury proceedings are governed by strict secrecy, blah, blah, blah. So that was kind of that was the question I wanted. I think I'd asked you on the phone of that earlier.
Yeah, sorry, I was a little distracted because tonight I've been busy, but I mean, I think the long and short of it, after I've spoken to a few people and kind of parsed out what this is starting to look like, and I feel this was pretty predictable given everything. I said this back on June 18th, like she's not out of the woods yet. None of them are, but the intent, what you did with that information, if you simply shared it with somebody else, probably okay. If you used it to then wage a campaign of harassment and intimidation against them, less okay, right? Because you're aware that they're federal witnesses and you're acting with that information.
In the reply, it said if I used it to report it as a journalist, that's legal. But obviously, it's different when you're talking about using it as a pattern of a witness intimidation campaign.
Right, and the journalism argument hasn't really gone great in state court at all. And again, I would encourage anybody to go read Massachusetts Chapter 268(13)B, and then go ahead and compare that to the U.S. federal penal code. They're almost identical.
Right. And Red Sky makes a good point too. And Red Sky was a criminal trial lawyer. And let me pull back and pull this up on the screen. She says, I think if you publish what the juror has stated in an effort to taint a jury pool, it could be obstruction. That's a really good point. And clearly, Turtle Boys was trying to influence the jury pool. There's no question about it. So that would be an interesting.
And somebody said you're one of the freak-haired read people said, oh no, this was before Turtle Boy got involved. Turtle Boy's first blog was written April 17th, 2023. And he was first in contact with Karen Reed through an intermediary April 13th of that year. So yeah.
Yeah, well, it does list the beginning range as August 11th, 2022, which was before Turtle Boy was involved. But it doesn't say that that's when the leaking occurred. So, and I don't even, and there wasn't even a grand jury seated at that time too. So I'm not really sure exactly what that means. So that's the date that Karen and her team went into and met with Josh Levy. So is that just a technical starting point for their investigation that they're putting forward here on the paperwork?
Yeah, there would have been no grand jury at that point.
Right. So they may have launched the grand jury process, but there would have been no grand jury with actual grand jurors yet. Let me try to get it. Looks like I got your volume all the way, I think. Let me try it again. Oh, it's not even letting me do the volume now. Kate, I think I lost you, or you're muted at the moment. And before
I'm muted. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the dog. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
You had also gone really quiet too. I mean, your volume. So okay, well, I'll let you control it. I tried to control it. Tried to help with it. All right, so let's just look in chat and let's see what you guys think about all this. I mean, this is really, what do you guys think? Do you think that current U.S. Attorney Leah Foley is trying to do the right thing here? Is she on the side of the good, or is she being forced into this for some kind of reason? Is she being pushed into this?
I think it's somewhere in the middle. I mean, you got to clean this up. It can't be like.
Right. And I agree too, in the sense that this is why I've always put it. You have to kind of give her a little bit of safe space in order to do what has to be done here. We can't just assume that she has the courage to do everything that needs to be done to get to the bottom of the truth. So she may be inclined to get to the truth, but it's difficult because there are people in the office that she's worked with for a lot of years, and there's going to be an argument in her head just to let it blow over. So it is kind of a combination thing there. I agree with that. Matt says this juror must have spilled her guts to get such a light sentence. There's a certain logic behind that, and hopefully that's the case. But it also could be the sign of the feds trying to cover things up too, just to make it go away. So,
I mean, this is bringing attention back to it, though, so I don't really see this as much of a cover-up.
No, but if you can brush it under the rug as much as possible, and then it looks in a week and 2 weeks from now, people have forgotten about it,
They did a press release.
Yeah, that's true. They did do a press release. They do like their press releases. So that's a good sign, though. If she's doing a press release because she likes the way this looks, is going to make her look, then that's going to encourage her to get to the bottom of it. So that's good. Sue says, is that Sue O'Connell going by the name Sue Matrica? She says, you guys are all nuts. I think it's Sue O'Connell. She's changed her name for chat. What have we said that's nuts? Everything that we've said is just from what's been reported.
They believe in their hearts that this somehow indicates that the Commonwealth and the McAlberts are going to get caught. I mean, it defies logic. There is absolutely no need of a grand juror leaking anything to either of to any of the witnesses nor the Commonwealth, because the witnesses were there for this grand jury, which again, occurred way later than 2022. But and the Commonwealth also had the Commonwealth was made aware of this whole federal involvement thing because the witnesses called them and told them about it. So, I mean, there is no need of any grand jury leaking going on there. They had as much information as they were going to get.
Yeah, Cappy, that's a good chance. Turtle Boy probably will post that. He's got to be doing a little duck and cover right now. But I do remember it was around the time of the grand jury. Say, I don't know, maybe a month or two after Turtle Boy's first started covering this story, when Turtle Boy did this thing where he said, you guys either believe me or you don't. And that's it. If you don't want to believe me, F you, basically. Don't listen to my show. And this is when he was talking about information that he had. And
right.
He seemed to be...
Oh, sorry. No, but I was just going to agree. He referenced in his blogs, quote unquote, sources from Moakley.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. That's exactly right. And look, there's not even any question that Turtle Boy lies. Turtle Boy famously lied to me on the air saying that he never talked to Karen or her lawyers. And then the phone records came out. So he said, well, yeah, so I'm a reporter. I obviously I talk to sources, but he lied to his own audience repeatedly about that. So of course he lies. So there's no reason to anybody should just take anything he says as truthful. I don't really understand why any normal human being would. Even Karen Reed, why would she believe him? I mean, he's just not an honest guy. Kevin, didn't you say in your book that Karen enlisted the federal government to dig into this? So why would she need a leak? Well, she did. Her and Yannetti and Jackson got a meeting with then U.S. Attorney Josh Levy, then first Assistant U.S. Attorney Josh Levy on August 11th, 2022. But why would she need a leak? Do you really need me to explain that to you, dude? I mean, if a grand juror is going to leak that to Turtle Boy, that just reinforces what he's been hearing from Karen. And so that's very useful.
Or if it's leaked to her, honestly, because this is where I've always kind of kept a dimmer view of her relationship with the U.S. Attorney's Office, as you and I have discussed many times, and said, I don't necessarily know if I believe that Karen had a direct line to the first, U.S. District Attorney.
She got the meeting with him, right?
Well, yeah, yes. But as far as getting constant updates and all this other stuff, I had always kind of assumed, and this is based on my time working with Turtle Boy, that it was very plausible that somebody lower level was giving out this information and keeping her abreast of it, and then she inflates it to make things look more legitimate.
Right. I mean, she definitely, but also we know now that with the big bombshell that came out in April Vaudier of Dr. Wolf, that representatives of the U.S. Attorney's Office were communicating in violation of sequestration what the state's experts had been testifying during the trial. So
right to them, though.
Right. So I guess we could say that doesn't mean that Josh Levy was aware of it, but that seems kind of unlikely to me.
I'm not saying he was or wasn't aware of it, but it doesn't mean that he was calling Karen Reed and her attorneys, keeping them abreast of every little development and being like, hey, buddy, we're on your side. We're going to arrest everybody right now. You know what I mean?
No, but I think that it's the fact that they were helping out the U.S. attorney, helping out during the trial in a very egregious way like that, certainly suggests that they knew what they were doing was wrong and they were doing it anyways. Now, when that began and how far it went, we don't know. I think it's a very good chance that they certainly started out. I doubt that they started out thinking that well, geez, we're going to help a murder defendant get off. No, they wouldn't think like that. That's not how someone who graduated second in his class from Brown would think. He was duped. But then once he was duped, my guess is he just didn't have the integrity to come clean because it was embarrassing. And so then you had that continued effort to try to put his thumb on the scale for Karen at that point. And we also know, we can't say with 100% certainty, we know where the source comes from, but that supposedly Karen told Turtle Boy that Jackson and Yannetti had a teleconference call in November of 2023 with Josh Levy himself, in which Josh Levy advised them to try to postpone the trial.
But that's from Karen.
That's from Karen. So and really it's from Turtle too. So you're going through two known liars. So it's possibly not true, but it fits in consistently with everything else that we're learning, including this and including Dr. Wolf's testimony, including even just the fact that Josh Levy should have ended this investigation a long time ago, but he didn't. He left it open intentionally in order to try to prevent closer scrutiny and closer questions. That's a fact. We know that for a fact. So it all fits together in a pretty consistent pattern here of wrongdoing by Josh Levy. Now, what motivated that wrongdoing, we don't know. My guess is that just because they got duped and then didn't want to look bad, but we don't really know. But there is a pattern there, right, Kate? You can see the pattern.
I wouldn't say that they didn't take sides. I wouldn't say that.
They took sides then, right?
Yeah, but that's not the same thing as being in direct communication with their team.
Well, they were in direct communication with Dr. Wolf. So how much, it's not really a big step to be in direct communication with Karen's team. And we already have Alan Jackson communicating over Signal with Dr. Wolf too. So there's just a whole pattern of behavior here that's pretty consistent with the idea that somebody in the U.S. Attorney's Office was probably in direct communication with Karen's team. We don't know for sure, but it needs to be investigated because that's the pattern. There is some evidence for it, and there is a pattern for it.
Sorry, my puppy's going wild around the house.
That's all right.
And I keep having to tear her off the other dog. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying there isn't a pattern as far as them taking sides. I've always been skeptical, especially about Karen's recounting of it, because it seems like a big stretch that they would be like conspiring with her.
Well, they were conspiring with Dr. Wolf in violation of sequestration order, which is more serious than just communicating with Karen.
Yeah, I've always thought it was a stretch.
I know you always did, but I'm surprised you still think it after hearing Dr. Wolf's testimony. But all right. I would think that at least moved the needle for you to some degree.
Well, I mean, they had a pre-existing relationship with Dr. Wolf in his office, right? Like they contracted. We never really, I mean, we know that they were giving them information and updates, right? Not the full, oh, my God, the full context of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know at this point. I've just always been very skeptical, particularly about the Zoom meeting where, you know, at first when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, Zoom meeting telling them to delay the trial. And the more that I play that over in my head, it really strengthens my sort of skepticism with Karen's version of events here with stuff like that. Cause it starts to go over into the implausible.
We got the trolls out. I forgot to
they're upset. They're upset because again, they've put all their stock into the feds. And the first movement that you have post verdict regarding the federal government and authorities on this case, it strongly implicates some wrongdoing or malfeasance on the part of either Turtle Boy, Karen Reed, or both. So like they're going to be upset. I anticipate that.
Yes. There is no, It's hard to find any people in this state that are better at reality denying than these people. Rosewater asks, hi, Kevin, when did Karen Reed and Joe Warren stop dating? Why did they break up? I'm not going to answer questions like that. Not saying it's not a good question, Rose. If he wants to come on the show, he can come on the show and tell the story. And we know that he doesn't want to tell the story. That's the one thing I do know. So.
I mean, it's the same thing. And I think this is probably pretty jarring for them in general, because again, like they had this sort of expectation. They ordered, a federal investigation into quote unquote real killers. And they've been waiting by the mailbox every day for a month now for them to show up. And the first, sort of rejuvenation, any new movement in this situation at all, again, it's clearly implicates one or both of these people. I think that you really, really, really have to be pretty brain damaged not to at least recognize that. And the contents of this and the details are obviously highly speculative at this point, but there are some things that are just abundantly clear.
James, thank you. And James believes that it's obviously Karen who's the person that the plea out was about. But I'm not convinced of that, James, because I could see them easily that the juror leaked this to Turtle Boy. And if the feds are in cover-up mode, it might have been someone completely different than both of them. She might have just posted something on social media. I don't know, but I do agree. She probably did leak it to one of those two. Time will tell.
Right. And again, I'm kind of reading between the lines with the comment made there about social media and communications, and I'm thinking to what would prominently be in both. Right. And, the answer is probably Turtle Boy. And again, the quandary, if that's correct, and I'm sure that even Free Karen Reed people can connect those dots, is what was done with that information. And what was done with that information is pretty well documented in a state case already. So, but they have been this entire time federal witnesses, technically anyway, by law, protected under that federal statute. So.
Funny Bunny says, even foul play, a bird like foul, Karen Reed has still no accountability. I hate her.
Can I Brian Jr.'s frozen note? I have not been called out for anything in open court. Bettero keeps writing these letters, and they are insane, and they do not cease to be insane, where they desperately try to assign blame to anyone else other than Aiden Carney for the crimes in which he was charged, that he documented them all. He took out his phone, camera, whatever, hit record or stream, and broadcast it to the world, right? There's no ambiguity about that. So, I mean, everything that has ever been turned over to the police, with few exceptions, would be, at least for the video content, would be things that he voluntarily posted on the internet with URLs and, all that good stuff. So, I mean, to think that I colluded with anyone to get Aiden Carney charged with any crimes, I guess I would have had to have colluded with Aiden Carney to get Aiden Carney charged with crimes, because he's the one that did these things and chose to film it and then upload it. Even dumb shit like the wiretapping, right? Before he edited that and tried to make it sound like he had informed this woman that he was recording, he uploaded just the raw video on a private link on his YouTube channel, and he shared it with people, and then in turn people shared it with other people, and then somebody who was directly sent it to me, right? So there's a very clear chain of custody there, and it starts and ends with Aiden Carney. He's the one who made the supremely wise decision to wiretap someone and then upload a private link, foolishly assuming that it would stay private, right? To YouTube, right? And so, I mean, he has the discovery, and I understand that it's under a protective order, but I can assure you that he and his attorneys are very clear on where all this stuff came from, and at the core, it always came from him.
Right. And it's just kind of like people that still have this doubt as to whether or not he was trying to intimidate the witnesses. Just go back and watch any of his shows, any one of them in the summer of 2023. Any one of them. He did it in his own words every night.
Yeah.
So
that's what's so mind-boggling.
It doesn't take some conspiracy of someone to try to get to the prosecutor. Someone may have tried to point that out to the prosecutor because they weren't watching his show, but it's Turtle Boy's words that were doing it. And his actions, obviously, combined with, for instance, going to the lacrosse game of Jen McCabe's daughter and things, and many other things that he did. The rolling rally.
Memorializing it. The reality denial with Karen Reed is absurd at this point, has been for a while, but there's at least that little like anchor point of like, well, there were no witnesses when she ran him over, right? Like nobody really knows exactly what happened except for as much as Karen Reed can recollect and understood what was going on at that time. And then John O'Keefe, who is now deceased. But in the case of this Turtle Boy case, right? The witness intimidation, all this other, like, he has unambiguously declared his intentions publicly in front of thousands of witnesses nightly for 3 years. I mean, it's just really absurd at this point that people can, deny this. And I mean, even this federal stuff, I think you have a very solid hypothesis as to how this woman got caught. We know that the police seized his phone. We know that he and his attorneys did everything humanly possible to prevent or delay the search after those phones were seized. We know that they tried to litigate everything they could. We know that in their litigation, they were very hyper concerned with what they referred to as journalistic sources, right? Heavy air quotes right now. We know that shortly after they finally, break through a litigation and start searching the phones, that this is announced. I mean, I think that that's a really reasonable thing to believe right now. And there's no evidence or anything that I can think of off the top of my head that would connect it to anything else right now, anyway.
Right. Maui, there's no connection. The silence on the state of the witnesses is unrelated to. They didn't know any more about than any of us did about these charges coming out with the juror. I'm just looking through chat. So I did, you have to, when you set up this show, if you don't remember to go in and make it so that only subscribers can comment, you get more of the trolls in.
Doesn't bother
more earlier.
I know you don't love them. I know you don't love them.
It becomes a distraction to the other people in chat that are just trying to have a conversation. So that's all it is. They kind of don't need them. I would have, when I was starting out the show, I would have had the same approach to you. I would have thinking, I believe in freedom of speech, blah, blah, blah. But just in practicality of seeing how it works, it's better to have less of them in there. If people want to come in and have respectful opinions from a different point of view, I think that's great. But if they're in just to troll, it just ends up ruining chat for normal people.
I think most of them are probably on my chat anyway. They love it over there. They do. Like my chat loves it. They'll just, yeah. Well, I feel like it's heavy, robust debate sometimes, usually about my underwear, but whatever. We'll meet
See,
you
that's
on.
not really. I would not consider that robust debate.
I was being sarcastic, but yeah, it doesn't. I think it's interesting too, just to see the reactions to this. That's really the only thing that I can look at right now, because we only know so much, right? Like I can tell you that nobody knew this was coming, as far as anyone that I talked to. So I don't think we need to implicate witnesses in anything or assume that's that silence for that. We don't know that much, which is a healthy sign, right? Because
I didn't know until you called me, and then my phone didn't stop ringing after that. Everybody calling to tell me about it, but no, I didn't know. I had no idea. I didn't see the Twitter reports by Christina Rex or anything like that. I don't really go on to Twitter that often.
Somebody had sent me the press release first, and of course, there's no context that connects it to Karen Reed. So I was like, "Well, that's weird, right?" Like that's and I would assume. Actually, never mind. But later on, I saw that the Globe had been able to connect it. And I was, surprised at first. Not surprised it wasn't a revelation. I'll put it that way. I was just surprised that anything had been caught or done. Honestly, I think that it's pretty obvious that this has been a huge concern. But I think it's really promising as far as it means that they're still looking at what happened here.
Right. Red Sky is saying that Hank should be appointed to I don't think Hank is in a state where he can be taking on any cases for any time soon. He has some physical problems going on with his back. So I don't think you'll see that anytime soon. But we wish him well with that. I know what that feels like too. A lot of people know what that feels like with bad backs and stuff like that. So.
Oh my God, I'm sure everything's exasperated by stress. That guy really got a raw deal as far as the way that he's being treated. It's just the neighbors.
Hey, jailbreak. Okay, anything else you want to talk about, Kate? We made it to 9. We can call it a night if there's nothing else. I'm happy to stay on if there's something else you guys got.
No. Oh, was it package? Maybe I knew something came. No, I don't think so. I mean, we just don't have a lot of information right now, other than what's going on here.
No.
I'll be enjoying watching the reaction from Free Karen Reed for the next several days. When is she? Well, her lawyer indicated that she may have a statement at some point. Maybe that'll shed some light.
Right. I will talk. I don't think this is it. You're interested in this, Kate, but I'll stay on for 5 minutes and talk to people about the Maine murder, the paddle boarder that was unfortunately killed up there, and a lot of mainstream media are saying that this might be a serial killer. So my early guess is that this is not a serial killer, and I'll give you the reason why, because it's very simple. Her body was found, at least from what I can tell, on an island in the middle of a pond that was not far from the ocean, not far from Portland. And it's an island that can only be reached by boat or paddleboard. And that's how the victim got there. I don't picture a serial killer hanging out on an island that he can only reach by boat. And then after doing what he does, can only get off by boat. That seems unlikely to me. So if it's not a serial killer, then it makes me wonder if it's someone that she went to the island with or possibly met there. Obviously, she had no idea what was going on, what was happening. But that's just my early thoughts on it, that I don't believe it would be a serial killer. It doesn't make sense to me because the only way to access that island was through boat. So I don't know. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, I'm always skeptical about that sort of stuff.
When I first started looking at, in the days after the deaths in Moscow, Idaho, which ultimately turned out to be Brian Kohlberger, I did believe that was a serial killer or someone who was in the act of becoming a serial killer, his first act, based on the fact that 2 people were killed on 2 different floors like that. It was consistent to me to what I had seen in looking at, for instance, Ted Bundy, and other killers. So, but this, we shouldn't always jump to that. And here, I don't think it makes sense. Although there are rumors of a New England serial killer flying around this summer, I don't think this one really applies here. But time will tell. Time will tell. We'll see what more information comes out.
Do you think that this is like an indication of where society is going, though? That I guess for as long as we've had things like the news, there's been a certain degree of attraction to the sensational, right? But I just feel like the climate tends to be a lot more distrustful and paranoid these days. Or is it just me?
Well, I'll tell you this: the police have advised locals to lock their doors and stay indoors. So that kind of suggests they think it's possibly a serial killer. Right. So, wouldn't, that's a motiveless killer. You wouldn't, if they knew it was like her ex-boyfriend or something, they wouldn't be saying that.
Right.
So I very well could be wrong. So we'll see. But, is it a sign? There's a lot of insecurity. We live in a different kind of time where people are more mobile and they're moving around, and people within a community don't all know each other like they did once upon a time. So, all right. I not actually feeling very well at the moment, so let's call this a night. All right. Thank you very much for being here, Kate.